A Springfield man first arrested at age 17 and charged as an adult has pleaded guilty to his role in the murder of Chavez Wynn. Timothy Hester, who is now 19, will be sentenced this fall to 50 years in prison for first-degree murder as part of his plea deal. In November of 2023, police say that Wynn and his then-pregnant girlfriend were in downtown Springfield when a group who had no connections to the couple opened fire on their car. Wynn died, but his girlfriend and child survived. Now, 5 people have been charged in his murder, including Hester. Alicia Bedell was sentenced to life in prison back in February. 3 others, Cesar Bolanos, Arshawn Bradley, and Quartz Washington, are due in court later this year.